Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion on motoring news. This is episode 686 on Monday, the 18th of May, 2026. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. This week you'll hear how some companies are learning no money, mo problems. In new car news, you'll find out that summer is on its way. And in points of interest, you'll question whether time is real or just something made up to hurt us. First, we leap into some follow-up.
Sorry, you forgot the thing I said we had to do.
Oh, yes.
Which is make a Nordic hotel room audio apology. So if I'm a bit echoey and a bit distant, well, that's me normally. But if I'm worse than that, then it's because I am in a hotel room on the outskirts of Copenhagen, and soft furnishings are not a thing.
No, not at all. Okay, moving on to a follow-up. And last year, we talked about how the MG3 failed a Euro NCAP test because the front driver's seat, as opposed to the back driver's seat, but the driver's seat even, slid forward in a front crash test. Now, it did not slide forward as this Car Scoops article that is linked in the show notes, 1 meter 11.5 centimeters, or 4.4 inches. It moved 4.4 inches. Because otherwise the quote of increasing the risk of injury would be increasing the risk to certain death. However, MG did come up with a solution. Euro NCAP tested it and agreed that this solution was suitable, but most owners of MG3s have not got this fixed. That's not just the UK, but that's Europe-wide. And Euro NCAP is now beginning to get very vocal, very publicly, and going, please get this fixed. This is really, really important.
Yeah. Now, we reckon that there aren't going to be that many MG3 drivers who listen to the Motoring Podcast. It's not a Motoring Podcast listener car. But if you know someone who has one, please check they know that this recall exists and that they're actually going to get it done. It's serious. It's a safety one. There is a solution for the problem. For goodness sakes, get it done for free.
Yeah.
Please make sure, check in with your friends and loved ones, but also that irritating bloke in the corner of the pub. Just make sure he's aware.
Absolutely.
That's a heartwarming consumer news of the week.
Okay, well, do you want to go to some stuff that's a bit less heartwarming then?
Oh, well, it's JLR. I'm going to let you all decide how you feel about that. But they made a post-tax loss of £244 million last year. That's down quite a bit from the £1.8 billion profit they made the year before. But there's a number of factors for that. Obviously, tariffs became a challenge in the US, JLR's biggest market. They're also affected by the same falling sales in China as pretty much any manufacturer that isn't Chinese.
Yeah.
And there was a pause in production, according to the CEO, TV Balajai. I think we would call what happened as a result of these cyber attacks to be a little more serious than a pause in production, what with the knock-on effects across the whole of their SAP installation.
Yeah. The extra bonus as well, there was a fourth issue that caused significant impact on their finances, and it's the warranty costs they're having to pay as well.
Well, yes, but that's been the same story since the year dot for JLR. They are not really recognised for their quality and their lack of issues.
It's a bit like hearing Ford say they're going to improve their reliability and quality stuff, and you see that they break records for the most number of recalls in America.
Yeah, to be honest, they've got a cash balance of £2.8 billion. Liquidity at 31st of March was at £6.9 billion, and included in that was £4.2 billion worth of undrawn loans. So money that theoretically they have access to, but they've decided they're not using at the moment. And all of that, by the way, that's a good sign. If you've had that many challenges over the year, particularly the cyber attack, that was serious. That it could have taken them right down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's obviously been a certain amount of business continuity, financial prudence over the last little while that's meant that they could weather that. It wasn't easy. It probably still isn't easy, I imagine. But given all the challenges they had last year, it could have been so much worse.
I mean, they did surprisingly well in the last quarter because they made a post-tax profit of £356 million. So that's after the cyber attack and the impact of that. But also the knock-ons from all this is that they have said that they want to save £1.7 billion over the next 2 years. And you kind of worry about, where are you saving that amount of money from? Are you sacking a load of people? Or have you suddenly discovered how inefficient you are in areas? Or what is it? Because whenever I hear we're going to save money, that always makes me think, particularly when it's phrased as cost-cutting, that makes me worry about the impact on quality and reliability. And as we've just said, that they've already got a mountain to climb in terms of that.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a huge year this year because they're going to be launching the Jaguar, which we'll get onto in just a moment. But they're also going to be launching the electric Range Rover, apparently, as well. We were teased lots of images about that last year, and people had first drives and all this sort of stuff while it's still pre-production. They're two huge models for them, particularly in the current market, which doesn't seem to be favouring luxury and expensive EVs.
Yeah, I see previous comments where I didn't mention Donald Trump. But, overall, actually, that's a pretty positive story, really. They weathered one heck of a storm, have come out the other side, and financially, at least, right at the moment, according to the accounts, looking healthy enough.
Yeah. But anyway, sticking with Jaguar, and they have finally named the new electric GT that's going to be coming out with 1,000 brake horsepower and all other silliness. And they're going to call it the Type 01, which apparently is part of a tribute to the brand's legendary sports cars and its era-defining status, according to this Autocar article.
The well-known Type C, Type D, Type E, and even the more recent Type F, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. But then again, I don't understand this car yet and the rebranding.
There's so much I don't understand.
And I don't mean that from a gammon, oh my word, they should all be going around with walnut and full leather, etc., on the interior, and there's no need to do anything. I'm not bothered about that. I just still don't know who the car is aimed at, apart from somebody with lots of money, why they would buy it, and why we should care.
Mm-hmm. Regarding the naming thing, I don't get it. Because, surely you would make it the 01 type or the 00 type if you want to refer to type.
Mm.
Obviously, we understand why you don't necessarily want it to be XJ or XK. You've been using those for decades, for many decades.
That doesn't hint at heritage, that hints at baggage.
a little bit. Yeah, which is a point I totally get, understand, agree with. I don't know why they haven't tried to choose a name, a proper name. I don't know what that proper name would be. I'm going to jokingly say Sovereign. But if they wanted to move away and they wanted it to show that it's a new start and all these kind of things, then I would be looking to name it, because Jaguars traditionally haven't been named. It might be that it's very difficult to find a name that people haven't already pinched, used, or which doesn't sound overly twee in some form. The Jaguar Buckingham. It's just a bit naff, and obviously can't use Silverstone or any of these things. But to do something like that and attempt something like that, it would make a bit more sense to me. I just think that it's bland when everything else isn't. I also think it'd be kind of cool to have this sort of brutalist, slightly crazy, whatever it is car with really quite a traditional name. I think that might be kind of cool as a sort of juxtaposition of one against the other,
Yeah, I can see the sense in that, because, like I was saying, I'm struggling to understand who it's for and why. There's nothing in the naming that would make me go, well, obviously that's Jaguar.
Yeah.
That could be from, like I said in the past, when we've talked about how...
It could be from BYD, mate.
Yeah, that's right. It could be any Chinese car company that is here now or we've not heard of yet and is coming here. And we've got, because it doesn't shout Jaguar to me. It doesn't even whisper Jaguar to me.
It couldn't be BYD, because then it'd be a Type Blue Whale or something that was BYD. Yeah. DMI. Yeah, it could be. If it was a Moda or something, then
yeah. Can I just say before we move on, though, because we have been long on this story, there is an Autocar article linked in the show notes that goes all through this. And for the first time ever, I'm going to recommend going to the comments of Autocar. Now, I know normally that's the bottom half of the internet, but this time I think everyone should read the comment that at the moment of recording is the top when it's sorted by best by Hyfrith, that's Hyfrith, posted on the 13th of May, with a theory as to why Jag are doing what they're doing and a wider discussion of the car industry and more. This one, when I read it, it actually made a lot of sense to me. I'm not saying necessarily it is true or that is what's happening, but I'm not saying that it isn't either. I really like this comment and it made me think.
There's one called by someone called D-Stains5, which is like the second one down, which also makes a lot of sense as well. But yeah, Hyfrith's one, I think he's got a very good point there. But my counter argument is I don't think it's expensive enough or obviously exclusive enough.
No, absolutely.
To achieve what Hyfrith is saying. But I think he makes a good point.
Yep. Well, anyway, do you want to take us on to something that is eye-wateringly expensive, though?
Well, Aston Martin.
Yes.
Well, it's not as eye-wateringly expensive as it was.
Well, it depends if you're trying to run it.
Well, yes, a few years ago, they were valued at $5.8 billion, according to this Car Scoops article. Since 2018, when that happened, it is now worth about £430 million or $584 million. One of the reasons why the value was so low is because for the 8th time since going public, then they went off looking for a cash injection. They received it. They received £50 million from a consortium of investors led by Stroll.
That doesn't seem a lot. 50 million does not seem a lot. I mean, I know that's an enormous amount of money to you or I personally, but to the company.
Well, given that last year they lost £364 million, then, yeah, it's not looking so great. This Car Scoops article, after that point, I feel it goes a little bit off the wall, because they do start to look at whether or not Geely might swoop in and save it, whilst at the same time, Geely has reduced its stake. Mercedes-Benz has reduced its stake. That's totally at odds with that. Also, I think Geely are having enough trouble with British firms that they've bought up over the years. LEVC was meant to, the London Electric Vehicle Company, who make London taxis, was meant to be expanding, have multiple models and stuff, and we've not really seen that, other than the van, which was not wonderfully successful.
I have seen 2 of them.
I've seen a couple, but it's not exactly a success.
No.
And, of course, Lotus, which is something of a disaster at the minute, given they're getting rid of 500 people and lost £195 million in the first half of 2025. No, I don't think that actually is realistic, and I doubt that will be the case. Andy Palmer, well-known talking head on these, just about everything British automotive these days, says he believes the company should welcome Chinese partners with open arms, but he tends to say that about quite a lot of things. So I don't know. Yeah, I've told the story of literally bumping into Andy Palmer in the Sunderland plant. I only knew it was important because he had nice shiny shoes, but didn't have steel toe caps. It's the only way you can tell important people in the Sunderland plant.
But it is worrying for Aston Martin. I mean, they are continuing to be Aston Martin, traditionally lurching from crisis to crisis.
I mean, yeah, it is. I've seen by the way, just scrolling through the pictures here, I've seen an uptick in the number of DBX I've seen.
All right, okay.
But I don't know.
I mean, obviously, we hope it does well.
Yeah, but it is the next in Aston Martin's long history of cash crises.
Yep.
It's they make lovely cars and crises.
Yes. Okay, I'm now going to take us all the way to China. We are going to talk about Stellantis and Dongfeng. Stellantis has signed a deal with Dongfeng, who have a plant in Wuhan, that from 2027 they're going to build 2 new Peugeots and 2 new Jeeps, which are going to be initially for the Chinese market and then go on to global export. They're going to be using Dongfeng's software and underpinnings as part of this. Apparently, the Peugeots are going to be based on the Concept 6 and Concept 8 that were recently shown at the Beijing Motor Shows. this does feel like it's a long way off compared to what some Chinese manufacturers do in terms of, we've shown you a picture, now we're going to build it for you. Here it is 3 weeks later. But I think that is a consequence of the, I don't want to say traditional because that's not the right word, because China has traditional car makers now. They've been there long enough.
Yes, it does.
It's those not in the local market.
Mm-hmm. It's like history repeating. The last couple of stories, like history repeating themselves, but this time it's it's DONGFENG building 4 Peugeot and the global market as opposed to the other way around, just for the Chinese market.
Yep.
We talk about traditional manufacturers, and some of these companies have been around for about 40, getting on for 50 years now.
Mm. It's almost as though all those things that people warned would happen have happened.
Well, yes. Next up, XPENG in talks with Volkswagen, the latest in the list of Chinese companies who are looking to share some of that underused and expensive factory space with European brands. So XPENG in talks with Volkswagen to buy at least one European factory, or at least rent space within one. We'll see where that goes.
Yep. Okay, that means I can move on to the UK. And last week, the government announced that it is going to ease some of the rules for electric vans that are plated up to 4.25 tons in weight. They will now be considered the same as a 3.5 internal combustion engine van. That means that there is some bureaucratic side of things that no longer have to be done, such as an annual MOT test. The drivers don't have to use tachographs and this sort of thing, which is coming into play from the 1st of June.
It's a playing field leveler. He's about to go nuts about it.
But it's not a playing field leveler, is it? It is changing the rules to allow something that doesn't fit to the rules to now be in the rules. And those rules are in place for our safety, and they have been in place for years, and they were deemed to be successful. Okay, then if we can do it for electric, let's just change it and do it for diesel and petrol vans as well.
Yeah, that's not quite the point. I don't think. I think the point is that you're doing it so that you can make sure that there is adoption and that the rules may well change again in the future. I wouldn't hold my breath on that happening, by the way.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing it is because there isn't the products out there that will fit the same needs as a 3.5-ton diesel van. So they've had to go, okay, well, let's just pretend that the safety stuff we've got in place doesn't matter because it's electric, and let's think, because we're only going to focus on this one narrow bit.
In other countries, then, what's plated here is a 3.5-ton van. It's also plated as a 4-ton van, or a quarter-ton van. So just because it's considered something in this country does not mean it's the same across at least the continent or wherever. It's like 7.5-ton trucks are a British construct. Everywhere else they're an 8-ton truck. It doesn't make any difference to the components being used. It doesn't make any difference to anything else. It's all the same stuff. There's just a different number written on a little plaque on the driver's B-pillar. I don't think that this is... Okay, with my Captain Sensible hat on, I understand why you're making a big deal about it, but I don't think it's as big a deal as you're making. And I'm not saying you're wrong either.
But if we're going to bend for this one, why don't we bend for all of it? That's my thought.
Really good story on Professional Van, all about this. So as I have a link here in the show notes, go have a wee read of that. Andrew, what are you going to get angry about next?
I'm not. You're going to talk about this. You're going to talk about...
Oh, am I getting angry about it? My apologies.
You're going to tell people how we pick a unique identifying marker and we just display it to everybody and then think that that's okay when it comes to security.
But there was a perfectly good reason for displaying it to everyone. It was so that everyone could see it and compare it between the front of the car and the back of the car. And as a result, cut and shuts, the attendant safety issues, legality issues have almost been eliminated.
No, and that still should stand. Absolutely, 100%.
That's right, yeah. However, when you have a unique identifier for your vehicle that is on display through the bottom left-hand corner of the windscreen, wherever, then maybe don't make that the unique identifier that you can use to register a vehicle with the vehicle's online presence. AUDI.
It's so depressing.
But it's very easy. When you're a data guy and you're sitting down and you're going, how am I going to write my database with your adenoids on show? And you're sitting there and you go, well, what's a unique identifier for this column in this table that I'm going to link to my vehicles for their online registration? And you go, well, there's the vehicle identification number. That's unique. It doesn't change. And whatever the third thing is, I can't remember, which is how you choose a primary, how stuff automatically chooses a primary key to link between tables and databases. There's your nerdy tech stuff for the evening. Don't make it the thing that's on the outside of the car. But data architects don't necessarily think of these things.
That underlines the attitude of the car industry. There is never an adult there who goes, that's a great idea, lads. However, that isn't going to work because of X, Y, and Z.
I'm going to get in trouble for this again. But this is the problem with data architects. This goes way back into the people who make databases. That's actually what the problem is. It took me years. I thought all this data stuff was really, really complicated for a long time. The problem is the data architects. I'm not saying all data architects are like that, but I have met a few. And that's where it comes from. There's a sort of like, we've got this great thing, but then it's not necessarily understood how it's used in the real world. Anyway, the My Audi app and a multiplicity of other things on the Volkswagen platform do seem to use the VIN as the login and the identifier for the vehicle. This has all been reported. It's on decoder.cloud. There's a story there. Go have a read of it. I'm surprised this didn't turn up as a lunchtime read instead of an actual news story. Go have a wee read. It's very interesting and it's kind of cool. But ultimately, if you connect to a vehicle using its VIN, you link yourself through the app as a guest user. You can do all sorts of fun things like toot the horn and lock the doors and all that kind of thing, which you really shouldn't do. It has obviously all been reported to Audi and fixes are underway. If not, some of them are already in place. But have a read of this story if you want to understand in more detail. And I think some of you, maybe who are motoring journalists, should have a wee read of this. And there's bits you don't understand that get in touch with either the author or, I might be able to help. Not in a huge, data's not really my thing, but if you need to chat about it, then do. Stop looking at me, Andrew, you're freaking me out.
It's just depressing. It's every week there's something really stupid, isn't there?
I know. And everyone should know better by now. Cars, connectivity, everything's been around for over a decade. Why is this still new? Why is this so amateurish? And then you realise that actually it's like that in companies too.
Yeah. It definitely is not just a car industry problem. However, the ramifications from the car industry are a bit more...
Total. Cars are on every street corner.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a big deal. And also lives. People are much, much better generally at protecting trains and these kind of things than cars. And cars are everywhere and people have more time to stand and poke at them.
Yep.
Anyway, that brings us to Guilt Minute. Guilt Minute, of course, the quick breaking show where we ask for a tad of flash sport to keep the lights on and the hosting running, and to remind you that we have a patron. Also going to remind you that on the 4th of June, because I got it wrong last week. And
I didn't spot it.
Nobody
either.
Spotted it. It was you who spotted it. 4th of June, then we're having Q&A live stream. Questions coming in already. Thank you so much, those of you who sent them in. But yes, do get in touch via any of the usual channels. Obviously, there's the contact page on motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities, as well as LinkedIn, Blue Sky,
Patreon.
Those are really the best ways, aren't they?
Yeah.
To do it. But yeah, get in touch. Let us know your question. It can be a bit lighter. It can be something heavier. For goodness sakes, don't ask about JLR. 20 minutes was plenty on that topic. Thanks. Anyway, in the meantime, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player. Receive every show as they're released and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much. The last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you, everyone that does. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, loads of nice comments about the BYD seal thing. Seal, I always get it wrong. Was it a Seal 5?
Seal 5 DMI?
DMI, yeah. Much appreciated. Glad you enjoyed it. It was fun to put together.
Right. New car news then, and I'm going to start with the Volkswagen ID Polo GTI has now been revealed. And apparently, according to the article from Autocar, It has everything that belongs to a real GTI, quoting Volkswagen's technical chief. Okay. This is an important car, though. It is a very important car for Volkswagen, but it is a very important car in terms of electric vehicles and crossing more over into mainstream. This
is Volkswagen's second generation of EV. I really want this to be the generation that Volkswagen really wanted to be building the first time round if there hadn't been such a mad rush because of Dieselgate and all of these kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to have a 223 brake horsepower from a single front-mounted electric motor. It's going to hit 62 mile an hour in a brisk 6.8 seconds and has a top speed of 109 miles per hour. Actually, all of those seem really sensible because the Polo is a smaller car. It doesn't need to be like the Golf GTI and the 50th anniversary one, which is even more powerful than the R. It doesn't need to do that because the electricness, as we keep saying, it makes it quick off the line anyway. This seems like a good, sensible spec for this type of car. And it also sounds like it will then manage the balance between performance and range. Because if you go into some of the more powerful things, unless they have absolutely enormous batteries, which a Polo just can't have, just from the physical space, then you are compromised with using the performance and having a range that you want.
If you're interested in hearing more about that, then go way back and there's the Volvo XC40, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, XC40 Special Edition, where somebody maybe gets a little warm under the collar about that. For good reason.
But talking about the range, though, the range-wise, they did say that it is going to, whilst it is going to be down on the ID Polo, it is going to be 263 miles with a maximum DC charging speed of 105 kilowatt, which will enable 10 to 80% refill in 24 minutes.
I'd like to point out that's still 80 miles further than my Yaris GRMN gets from a tank of fuel. But by the way, did I say at the start, I think this looks really good?
No, we haven't talked about the looks yet.
I can't remember if I did. I do. I think it looks good. And that's going to go for all the ID Polos as well. And then this is just, icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, you look at it and you think that's a Polo, not ID3.
Super cool. Like it lots. I love that they seem to be offering the retro gauges as one of the options you can choose in the driver's instrument binnacle.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk about, I did want to mention that. I'm glad you brought it up because I'd forgotten. You know, when I went off on one about the Apple CarPlay Ultra and in the Aston Martin, this was exactly the point I was trying to make is look what Volkswagen have done. Okay, it's digital, but they are reminding everyone this is where we came from because they were really, really good dials. We didn't need to mess with them. They were so clear, so excellent.
I wish BMW let you choose the sort of E30 dashboard or the E36 dashboard, as well with, the swinging econometer at the bottom of the rev counter. But I wish they'd let you choose that instead of all of the angles. Can you tell I was driving my dad's car today? Yeah.
Just to finish this off, though, that the GTI is going to cost from around £33,500 and the ID Polo is going to start at just under £22,000. Okay, that sort of makes sense. I'm really intrigued by this one. I hope it's successful and I'd love to give it a drive and just see what it's like. And I hope Volkswagen have knocked this out the park in terms of bringing it, like Alan said, this is what we always wanted to produce. We've just had to go through 4 or 5 years of pain to get to this point.
I would love to try a £23,000 ID Polo.
Yeah.
Very interested to know what that would look like and feel like.
283 miles.
It might not be that big a battery if it's at the lower end, but yeah, 200 whatever miles, good looks. I mean, that's got to be a competitor in the sort of that price bracket.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Oh, anyway, do you want to stick with Volkswagen then?
Stick with Volkswagen. It's an update on an electric Volkswagen that I really like, which is the ID Buzz. Admittedly, my only experience with the ID Buzz was a GTX and phenomenally high trim, but it was very nice. But it turns out, it was very nice, but there were a whole load of issues as well. Ta-da. And basically, it's Volkswagen updating the ID Buzz in line with the ID for the ID3 Evo. Have I got it right? Oh God, what's it called? Neo. ID3 Neo.
Yes, Neo.
Instead of the rotten haptic buttons on the steering wheel, there are actual physical buttons. There are actual physical buttons to work some of the in-car entertainment, and that's all been upgraded. So it's basically pulled the ID Buzz up in alignment with the rest of the new ID models in terms of actual, like, real buttons and things instead of haptics and touchscreens and lacks of illumination and all of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Other thing that they've included is one pedal driving. Instead of the traditional 3-mile-an-hour creep that they had originally built in, they have removed the 3-mile-an-hour creep and have instead let it sort of come to a complete stop if you wish, and if you lift off the go pedal.
Do like one pedal driving if it's done well.
Do you? I don't. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. I don't.
Yeah,
no, I tend to be a coaster. But you see, in normal cars, I'm a bit of a coaster anyway. So
okay, that makes sense. But range-wise, because they've got a bunch of different batteries, but range-wise, they're looking at from a 79 kilowatt-hour battery, 282 miles. The long wheelbase model gets 86 kilowatt-hour battery. That's 292. Top of the range for the only one that Alan will ever drive, the GTX. You have that same 86 kilowatt battery, and that goes 280 miles, but you do get 336 brake horsepower, so you can leave people in your dust off the lights.
And lots of the torques as well.
Yeah.
But again, those are certainly on the other side of the Atlantic, people are making lots of noise about that range. And if you're running around the place, picking up kids, dropping off kids, you're going quite some to use up 282 miles in a day.
Mm.
And even on a long drive, if you have to stop and charge, then by the time you've corralled a bunch of people to go for a wee and everything, then you're going to have got most of the way from 20 to 80%. In the length of time that it takes families to do that, get something to eat, whatever else. So I don't have a big deal with that, but that's me. Maybe my imaginary use case is not as realistic as I think it is.
Mm. I can't remember the price of them, but I think they're a bit spicy on the old price front. But then
the ID Buzz is quite spicy on the prices, yes.
But then the internal combustion engine stroke hybrid traditional transporter or Caravelle is spicy on the old price front anyway.
Yes, there's no the article that we've linked in the show notes from evpowered.co.uk on that hour. No mention of price in the article, so I imagine that Volkswagen haven't announced it yet either.
Okay, I'm going to round out new car news with not one but two you get treated this week.
Mm.
And first up, the new Renault 4 Plein Sud. Is that how you pronounce it? Plein?
God, that was awful.
Well, of course it was. It was me.
Plein Sud. I was halfway through a drink there. I almost spat it out. That was so bad. It's the Renault 4 Plein Sud.
Plein Sud. Okay, thank you. And what that really means is that there is going to be a canvas roof that runs the full length of the roof on the Renault 4 that you can fold back because you can spot summer is on its way if you're going to reveal something like that. The Renault 4, if it was my choice in the brief drives I've had in the 5 and the 4 is the one I would go for, even though I prefer the looks of the 5. However, as a car to use, I think it is much more practical, particularly if you're more than just a couple. So to put something like this in, great, it's a bit of fun. How many companies are doing something like this? Virtually none of them, because at best you get a glass panoramic roof. It doesn't open. This, wonderful, marvellous. I like this a lot.
This is going straight for the heart of some of the small Fiats,
yeah,
which are no longer made.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second treat is only a concept car, I'm afraid. And this is the JP4x4 concept car. It's basically, they've done a bit of a Freelander 3-door on the back on this with the and removed it, but it looks so much cooler than that. However, I'm just trying to work out how to describe what they've done at the back. They've sort of made it like almost like a coupe over the back 3/4. There is part of a door because it's a concept across there, And then there's a chap about to go off and do some surfing. I mean, if this was the 90s, then this would be him holding a hoverboard and in a silver spacesuit, because that's the way French concept cars were photographed. I mean, this is just an image anyway. I don't believe it's the real thing, is it? I can't. It just looks so heavily doctored.
Supposedly, yeah, it might be heavily down.
Yeah. But it looks cool anyway. I like it. I like it lots. I like both of those. Yes, please. Thank you very much. That'll do. So the exterior paint color, though, apparently in this one is inspired by the emerald green and lettuce green offered on the Renault 4L during the 70s and 80s. Lettuce green. Okay. Do check out 2 articles to see those, though.
Anyway, points of interest, folks. Starting off with lunchtime read. We've been talking lots about talking about Renault just there, and Stellantis were developing lots of interesting cars. Renault then started developing lots of interesting cars, and around the same kind of time, Gilles Vidal moved back from Renault when some of these cars we've just been talking about, the 5s, 4s, the new Clio, came to production, was hired back to be head of, European design chief for Stellantis in Europe. Back again to the Peugeots, the Citroens, the Fiats, and overseeing the design over there. Twingo was the other new Renault that I didn't mention just there. He's saying some very interesting things. This is the article that's linked for your lunchtime read is by Charlie Martin in Autocar, and it's an interview with Vidal. And it's very interesting what he's saying about differentiating brands and all these kind of things. How there needs to be that differentiation, and everything can't just be cookie cutter of the other one. I'm paraphrasing terribly here. But these are all good points. These are things that we've been saying, that other commentators have been saying for a while now, about what kind of Stellantis needs and what it needs over the next little while. And it sounds like your man's on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting look into his thoughts and actually talking about plans and other stuff that's coming. I'm trying to talk about it and summarize it without giving anything away and still making it worth your while to read it.
My real concern is, will he be given will he be enabled to achieve his vision?
Yes.
That's what I hope he can, because we all want exciting different cars.
The trouble is that the vision is going to take 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It's going to take, because it's got to be that model cycle. And we might see hints of what the vision is, but the actual vision, then we've got to wait, I would imagine, 4 years, 5 years down the line, because what we're seeing now from Renault is what his vision was whenever he joined Renault.
Yeah.
Do be aware of that. But really good article. Enjoy that. Go, as they have a read. Take 5-10 minutes of your lunchtime to have a wee read of that.
Yep. That takes us on to the list of the week, and this is from Classic and Sports Car. And sorry, everyone, but it's 25 cars that are 60 in 2026. Now, I refuse to believe, in fact, that all of these are 60 in 2026. I might stretch some of them to 50, but I won't go over that.
No, all of these are old enough that I can believe they're getting on for 60, because that's so much older than me. I know you don't have quite the same thing, but that's, you don't have as much of a gap between you and them. But yeah, no, these are still, to me, these are still old cars. So I don't have a problem. It's the ones where they're 40 and you're like, no, I remember the launch. I'm sure I can remember the launch of that. That's where it's difficult.
Well, have you picked?
Do you want me to tell you what I've chosen?
Yeah.
Number 14 in your handouts, that's slide number 15, because of course it's a traditional intro slide. The Jensen FF, the Jensen FF.
Excellent.
The first non-all-terrain production car equipped with four-wheel drive system, supplied by Ferguson. Also the first production car to use ABS, thanks to Dunlop and its Maxiet technology. From there. I've always really liked these, and you can tell the difference between these and Interceptor by the convince on the side. I think these are really cool. I'm trying to remember who designed them. I think it was Michelotti. I could be wrong. It doesn't say just here. Maybe if I move a little bit. Touring, pardon me. It was Touring who designed it.
Very cool shape. Do like the look of these.
What about you? Come on, Mr. 5. There's plenty for you to choose one to.
Well, I just need you to go back 2 slides to slide 13, which is number 12, the Honda S800. Just little cutesy 2-door coupe, run around. Just great.
Japanese MG midget.
Yeah, and considering it was trying to move Honda out of, we just make, apart from the F1 stuff, but we're making utilitarian cars. I mean, a lot of the things you see the Chinese car makers doing now is they are flexing muscles and showing, oh, we're not just about cheap and cheerful. We're not just about a vehicle just to get the population moving. We can do more. We are capable of much more than that. And I just think it's a great little thing and they're so rare as well.
Yeah, fantastic rare. Very cute. Very cute indeed. I like the one in the picture in silver and stuff. It really suits it.
Yeah. There's a bunch of quality cars in this classic and sports car list. Do check out the slideshow.
Click slowly, carefully, and steadily.
Yes, that's directions from classic and sports cars themselves.
Don't think we have a reputation for breaking people's listicles these days. When it comes to Haymarket and slideshows, we do tend to get hey guys, do it like this. So we pass that on to you as a service.
Right, do you want to take us to the and finally then?
And finally this week comes from The Autopian, and it's from a little while ago, it's from about a month ago really. It's an article by Thomas Hundal about essentially racing firefighters. And it's called New York's Bravest Firefighters Race These Bizarre Trucks in One of the Coolest Competitions on the Planet. What you have to imagine here, folks, is drag racing over a very short course and using custom-built fire engines. And it's really a sort of drag car which people cling on to the back of.
Literally in one of these pictures.
No, literally they do. And then they erect a 25-foot ladder. Someone has to climb 25-foot ladder, get their hand on the top. After they have raced a 475-foot, whatever the heck that is in real measurements, course, so they accelerate, and they can get up to 80 miles an hour and to a stop again. And then people can climb the ladder, put a hand on the top rung, that's when they stop the clock, and that can happen in about 10 seconds.
There is a video embedded in this article as well for you to see how insane this is.
And there's like 18 rounds of this, across New York State alone. Happens all over the country in the US because they are all a bit mad when it comes to this kind of stuff. But they essentially have these Class B fire trucks, which is built just for this. Basically drag trucks with a ladder and ways for people to hang on to the back of it. Have a look, watch the video. It's special.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. It is special.
Only in America type of thing. Yeah, anything we've missed?
I don't think so.
Me neither. Yeah, apologies for recording on a weird night, especially to you, patron folk. It just worked better, and you can still watch the video.
Yep.
Can this week. Other than that, Parish Notes, of course, comes down to the 4th of June. Q&A, the live Q&A. We need your cues so that we can provide some A's. Remember, this is your opportunity to guide what we talk about, as opposed to us going and picking it with our news story randomizer. And Phil, have I got news for you, style? Anything else I should say there?
Don't think so.
Fantastic. Well then, everyone, don't forget to now next week you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember that you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky or under my full name on LinkedIn. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, what is the best way for them to do that?
Best way with me is doubtless Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLY.social, or similarly, my full name on LinkedIn as well. We'll be back very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.